Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining in today's webinar. My name is Cindy Valenzuela, and I am the manager of Medical Device Team and Registrar Corp. Today, we'll be covering the topic about FDA detention. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer as many time allows after the presentation. So in today's agenda, we'll be covering a little bit of introduction about Registrar Corp, the U.S. port of entries and step of import process, how detention works, what's the notice of action looks like, and we'll also covering medical device services and drugs. Um, I'll be co-presenting with Melissa. She is our drug manager in Registrar Corp. Okay, let's get started. Before we dive in, for those who may not be familiar with us, I'm going to give a little brief introduction about Registrar Corp. Registrar Corp, we take pride in being a trusted partner in global FDA compliance and regulatory solutions, supporting businesses of all sizes in navigating US FDA regulations across multiple industries, including pharmaceuticals, drugs, medical devices, biologics, cosmetics, food and beverages, dietary supplements, and radiation-emitting devices. Throughout this time, our client base has grown significantly, and we now have served more than 32,000 customers and counting across multiple countries. We offer approximately 27 specialized services and software solutions, all designed to support regulatory compliance and operational efficiency. To ensure that your data is protected, Registrar Corp is proud to be ISO certified, ISO 27001 certified, demonstrating our commitment to information security. Our regulatory expertise across the globe are covering the US, EU, UK, Canada, and many more. We operate from 18 offices worldwide, with our headquarters located in Hampton, Virginia. So let's talk about a little brief on about US Food and Drug Administration. A brief history and what is really an FDA. So this FDA is a government agency under the Department of Health and Human Services. Its main mission is to protect public health by ensuring the safety of food and drugs. In 1906, President Theodore Roosevelt signed into law about the Pure Food and Drug Act. And then on June 24, 1938, President Franklin Roosevelt signed the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, expanding FDA's authority to require pre-market safety reviews for new drugs and prohibit false therapeutic claims in drug labeling. FDA now regulates food, drugs, including veterinary drugs, biologics, blood products, and vaccines, cosmetics, medical device, radiation emitting devices, and tobacco products. Next, let's talk about the US port of entry. So the US import system operates through 328 official ports of entry in the United States, including land airports and seaports that serve as a gateway for goods, people, and regulated products. To my knowledge, the port in US, in Los Angeles, and I think also Texas, are among the busiest and the largest ports. So in 2024, the FDA processed a total of 56,570,146 shipments across all US ports of entry. What are the 5 steps of import process? So in importing products regulated by FDA, it is very important that you understand the import requirements and process. These are the 5 major phases or steps to the FDA's import: preparing to import, entry submission, entry review, examination and sampling, and compliance review. And we're going to go through all this import process one by one. Let's talk about preparing to import. This phase starts with the importer and their legal responsibilities for the product they want to import into the US. Well-prepared importers will make sure ahead of time that products comply with all FDA laws and regulations, collect information about the product, manufacturer, and applicable FDA requirements such as your establishment registration numbers, listing numbers, or device listing numbers. You have your 510(k) numbers, NDC or National Drug Code numbers, ANDA or abbreviated New Drug Application numbers. You have to make sure that your registration is current and compliant with FDA, as well as your labels and labeling. So when you're preparing to import, you want to make sure that this phase basically tells you that you want to make sure that your establishment complies and that you have prepared all the necessary requirements. So what if all the products is not in compliance? Of course, your product entry may be refused or detained. So you want to make sure that all products or devices and drugs that you are shipping to the United States is in compliance with all FDA requirements. I think that's again like a no-brainer that, when you're shipping to the United States, you want to make sure that you have all the required informations ready and provided in the shipping documents. What is a customs bond? A customs bond is a contract or an agreement used for guaranteeing the specific obligations will be fulfilled between customs and an importer for any given import transactions. The main purpose of a customs bond is a guarantee that payment of import duties, tariffs, and fees. There's 2 options that you can obtain: a single entry bond that may be applicable for occasional or for a one-time importer, or a continuous bond for those businesses conducting regular shipments. For a SEB, the bond may be 3 times the value of the goods, and for a CB, the bond minimum is 50,000 US dollars. Let's go to the next step, which is the entry submission. So entry submission, all the products offered for entry into the United States, including items for personal use, must be declared to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. CBP issues a unique entry number for every shipment. Each unique product in the shipment is called a line in the entry. So if you guys are familiar with the iText, which we're gonna go over later on, what is this a system? When you go to that system or portal, you'll be seeing if you have a detained shipment, it usually says their line and it shows what products is in that line specifically. Formal versus informal entry. What this means is if the entry that values over 2,500 and involves more detailed documentation that includes a customs bond processed by a licensed broker. The value for an informal entry is below 2,500. This entry is a little bit more simplified process and there's no customs broker required, and informal entries are not allowed if the products require approval from other government agencies like FDA or USDA. Let's talk about low value entries exemption. As of July 9, 2025, CBP announced that the FDA review exemption for certain low value imports has been rescinded. So, what this means that all entries of FDA regulated products must be reviewed for admissibility by the FDA regardless of their quantity or value. Previously, certain FDA-regulated products could be released by CBP without FDA notification if eligible for exemption. But now, because of the technological capabilities of both the trade and the FDA have advanced significantly, it is necessary that even low-value entries like 800 dollars or less undergo FDA review to ensure that they comply with FDA requirements. Let's talk about the A system or the automated commercial environment. Basically, this system is what the customs broker use. They they input all of the informations that the establishment is providing from the shipping documents to this system. This is an automated commercial environment or ACE. It's a software database that the customs broker is using. This system is also used by customs to file entry information, like I said, and then putting all the documents with CBP or customs. They're also using this software to communicate with brokers and other government agencies such as FDA. What is a conditional release? A conditional release is a shipment refers to goods that have been temporarily released from customs custody, but under specific conditions, usually to a nearby location or warehouse. However, this release is not final. It is conditional and subject to recall. This is known as a conditional release period. During this time, CBP or a partner government agency like FDA can issue a notice of redelivery, requiring the importer to return the goods for further inspection or action. The shipment, so what it means also is that the shipment needs to stay intact. Goods undergo conditional release and cannot be sold or distributed under all conditions are status until all conditions are satisfied and FDA makes a final admissibility decision. So if your goods are put into a warehouse for further review, you cannot sell or you cannot distribute your products. If the importer fails to comply with this notice of redelivery, they may face penalties or for FDA regulated goods. For FDA regulated goods, and failure to redeliver can also lead to refusal of future shipments and increased scrutiny. So once an entry is filed, products undergo an automated electronic review using a risk-based analytics tool that assess admissibility. The entry documents will consist of customs forms, invoices or shipping invoices, bill of lading, and any other documentation that might be helpful to determine the products are admissible, such as an user letter that verifies the identity of the end user. It confirms the intended use of the product or technology, and it ensures the compliance with export control laws and regulation. Also, it prevents diversion to unauthorized users or countries. The product label, certificates, if applicable, and then ingredient list. When a shipment is imported to the United States, the FDA notified through the ACE system. Upon receiving the notification, the shipment undergoes screening process that using a system they called PREDICT, or Predictive Risk-Based Evaluation for Dynamic Import Compliance Targeting. Predict system is designed to enhance the FDA's ability to target high-risk shipment efficiency. The system also calculates a risk score for all entries. Higher is the worst based on data mining, pattern discovery, automated queries of of FDA databases, and the compliance history of companies and products to assess the relative risk of the entry. So low risk and consistently compliant products are released more quickly, and they may be given a may proceed status. So that means they are good to go to the final destination. And higher risk shipments are prioritized for examination, further sampling, or detention. So predict, which I just mentioned in the previous slides, the predictive risk-based evaluation for dynamic import compliance targeting analyzes data using historical compliance records such as warning letters, product risk profiles, manufacturer and importer history, data quality, other intelligence sources. Based on the above, Predict assigns a risk score and flags high-risk shipment for further review. If a low-risk shipment has incomplete or inaccurate data, it may still be flagged for manual review and physical examination, even if the product itself is considered low risk. Examinations and sampling. So after analyzing a shipment using a predict system and other available data, the FDA may decide to conduct a physical examination. During this process, they might collect samples for testing in an FDA laboratory. For medical devices, based on our experience, the most common for examination or sampling are gloves devices. So when samples are taken, it depends on what type the product is, known hazards for product type, or any other information FDA has gathered during the review process. For exam and product sampling, for physical exam, after a physical exam, products that appear to be compliant might be released if no concerns or violations found and no samples for testing were taken at that time. If a product sampling is required, the samples are collected. Products will not be released until the FDA laboratory results are received. The turnaround time can vary depending on the product itself, type of testing required, and the current workload of the FDA laboratory. Based on our experience, this process could take anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks or sometimes even longer. It just really depends. Compliance review. The compliance branch will evaluate the evidence obtained from documentation, physical inspections, and laboratory test results to determine whether the product is in violation of FDA laws. So if you're in compliant, FDA will release the shipments. If it's not, then it'll be detained. So refusal of admission. And this is basically when when your shipment is detained and FDA refuses. It's just either you take it back to the origin or it's subject for distraction. And when your shipment is became refused, you're gonna have to communicate with your broker on the next step of the process. So what it means when it's refused is if the importer fails to provide sufficient evidence or corrective actions within the specified detention period, the FDA will issue the notice of refusal. So again, that means they deny the entry into the US. Um, Usually, a response to notice of detention and hearing if is not received within the specified time frame. That's where the FDA will refuse. So later on in the presentation, we'll be showing you a sample of a notice of action letter where it usually states in that letter the respond date that you have within that time frame to provide any testimony or a proof for your products or for that shipment to be released by FDA. Efforts to relabel or recondition the detained shipment pursuant to an approved application have failed. So if you have submitted a Form 766 and the relabel or which tackles the relabel or reconditions, if it's failed, then it will be refused. Reconditioning results in some reject material that must be exported will be refused. After a hearing relative to the validity of the charges, the hearing officer rules that the charges are valid and a Form 7666 has not been submitted. So not all charges in the notice of action were addressed correctly and resolved to comply with FDA requirements. So if you didn't provide everything required by the compliance officer, it's subject for refusal. So refused articles are supervised for exportation or destruction by the CBP or Customs Border Protection. They CBP usually issue a notice of redelivery requiring the importer to return the goods to the customs custody for export or destruction. And it's typically done within the 90 days of the refusal notice. The refusal notice, the importer usually received it, and fees. For fees, while CBP and FDA supervise the destruction, they do not charge a fee for their oversights. However, the importer may need to pay for storage and for a certified service to destroy the goods, including transport and handling. Let's talk about the notice of action or a notice of action letter. So when a product is detained, a notice of action is sent to a customs broker and or the importer. So they'll receive a letter, and it's in that letter it lists the violations that the FDA has observed during the review. The foreign shipper is eh, the foreign shipper is usually not informed and does not receive a notice of actions. And a notice of action may be issued to a foreign shipper if they are designated as the IOR or importer of record for that shipment. U.S. company can take over ownership of goods after a foreign exporter has cleared them through the U.S. customs, and foreign shipper can retain ownership of the goods stored in the U.S. warehouse. Examples, those are online sales and order fulfillment under a certain condition. Common issues when a shipment is detained is because you didn't provide your listing number or the NDC number is missing. You did not list the device or the drugs in your registration. You're missing the establishment registration. Importer has not been identified a manufacturer on the registration. So in for medical device, you have to identify your manufacturer in your importer registration as well as the manufacturer registration, identify their importer. If you're missing establishment registration, you didn't register with FDA, that's also one of the issues. Manufacturer has not been identified, like I said, and you're missing the 510K or the drug number. Um, Label issues, or if they request for additional documents, that could also trigger to detain your shipment. So this is an example of a notice of action letter, specifically the page one. So um, you'll be assigned an entry number, which is at the top left, and what number of notice have you received, the date that it is issued, it is indicated in that notice of action letter, page one. And in the middle part of that page, it shows the status of your shipment. If in that line it says detained, then that specific products is in detention status. Sometimes you may also notice that if you have multiple products in the shipment, you will notice that one line is detained status and then another line may say may proceed. So important information on the NOA, like I said, entry number, the notice number, the date, line items, and the current status. So in page two, which is very, very important, you have to make sure that you are aware on the respond date. You make sure that you provide all the informations required by the FDA to before that respond date. If in any case that you require an extension, and the way we assist our clients, we usually request for an extension to the FDA if needed. Now, depends on the compliance officer and our experience, some they do not grant an extension. So just keep that in mind. So with notice of action, the FDA usually charge why the shipment is detained, which in most cases misbranding or adulteration. In page two, it usually says specifically what they're requesting. If it's device listing number, it usually states in the page two, or if your importer that you provided in that was transmitted in the A system is not registered, so you need to provide a copy of the registration. In page two, as well, it indicates at the bottom the compliance officer, specific compliance officer person that you'll be contacting to provide the requirements or the information required for that shipment. And page three, it's gonna basically direct you to iText, which is FDA system portal where you will be uploading all the responses and documents required to release your shipment. So import trade auxiliary communication systems or ITACs. This iText, like I said earlier, that's a portal. It is an online portal that developed by FDA to streamline communications between the FDA and then the import trade community during the import entry process. Key features of iText: you'd be able to submit your entry documentations. Importers, brokers, and filers can upload all documents required under this portal. You'd be able to check the status and submit goods availability information. The FDA detects shipments or physical examination or sampling is required. Users can provide availability details through the iText. And FDA also prioritizes documents submitted through iText over those sent by other means. And and again, this is a secure portal, and brokers or importers managing multiple entries can request secure access to receive notification. So for more information about iText, if you're not familiar with the system, please refer to the link below. So this is one of the example when for medical devices specifically when a company has detained is because they don't have UDI barcode in their devices. So here it says you need to respond by June 27, 2024. It also includes its misbranding, which is it's detained because the product lacks a required UDI. So pretty self-explanatory. It shows there what's the cost of detention. If your product is shipped to the US without the UDI and that specific device requires UDI, you need to comply. And a lot of times, you would be required to submit Form 76 for relabeling. Again, talk about Form 766. This is an application for authorization to relabel or recondition non-compliant articles. It is used when imported product regulated by the FDA is detained because it appears to violate laws and regulation. The importer can submit this form to request permission to bring the product into compliance through relabeling or reconditioning. And who submits is the importer of record. What to include? Estimated time frame for completing the reconditioning, detailed description of how the product will be brought into compliance, and you have to provide a new labeling example showing that your UDR barcode and where it is placed in your device. Medical device with quality issues. Of course, it shows here in the screenshot due to adulteration. What is adulterations on the shipment means? Basically, it refers to if the product is unsafe, contaminated, or does not meet any legal standards. That's what the adulterations mean, and if it's also show it's subject to import alert, then your shipment pretty much will be detained. And I believe if I can remember it correctly, some of detentions that we have assisted, if you're on import alert or in red list, your shipment's going to be get detained until you corrected it or you request for removal. So what are the current status or terms for notice of actions? It says here incomplete filing, return to the filer. What this means is it's not really detained. It's basically the filing is not completed yet. There might be informations required that the broker or importers just need to be sent to the broker to put it in the A system. If it says pending review, basically FDA is reviewing the shipment, all the informations that was transmitted, they're reviewing it. If they didn't find anything for further review, usually they'll release the shipment. Another status is may proceed, or they'll indicate if sample collected, and of course detain. It shows also if you requested for an extension, it will indicate if this extension granted. If your shipment has been released, it usually shows released or released with comment. If released with comment, they usually issue you another notice of actions indicating the comment from FDA. If it's refused, it also show. And again, all of this status can be you can check it through the iText system. So you just go to the iText and put it in your entry number, and you'd be able to see if you're waiting on the status. It usually updates when you provide the documents. It shows in that iText system when it's released, when extension is granted, all of that status it shows in the iText. Further to our presentation, I have my co-presenter Melissa, our drug manager, will be covering the next topic about misbranded, adulteration, and import alert.
Thank you, Cindy, for the wealth of knowledge you have shared. There are additional highlights we will share, as Cindy just listed out. So thank you so much. Let's move forward. So there are common charges that appear on notice of actions, and understanding those differences can help you understand the depth of the charge. Misbranded is a charge that is common for label issues, a shipment with products that bears false or misleading, for being incomplete labeling, including if the label is not fully translated in English. That can cause a shipment to be deemed misbranded. Packaging is also required to contain the name of the place of business of the manufacturer, packer, or distributor. Another important component that is required on all labeling is the quantity of the product in terms of weight, measure, or numerical count. In other words, 30 milliliters to a jar, or there's 10 to a pack. So all that information needs to be on the label to make it clear to the consumer, especially for finished products, the intended for use, directions of use, what's in there. Products that are intended for administration must bear adequate directions of use. Unless it is a product that is exempted, such as active pharmaceutical ingredients are exempted and must include the appropriate caution statement indicating that additional processing is required. We do assist customers, our clients, with that labeling requirements in respect of, the type of product, what needs to go onto that label, which helps, shipments then clear without having labeling issues. If a color is not listed on the labeling, it does not comply with the color additive provisions that are listed under Section 706 of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, and that can also be another reason for a shipment to be detained for misbranding. Adulteration is a charge that results from concerns regarding safety of a product. Devices can be charged with adulteration when it is filthy, putrid, or prepared in conditions that are unsanitary that by default puts the user of the product at risk, especially for devices that are like needles or implants. If there are substances on the container or coloring used that could be hazardous to the consumer, the product can be marked as adulterated when being shipped to the United States. If the device is not working within the strength it claims to represent, that can lead to being ineffective or harmful to the consumer is another reason products are deemed adulterated when being shipped into the United States. When the appropriate filings have not been completed for certain types of devices, such as failing to conform to an improved pre-market authorization or a investigational device exemption, which is an IDE. So devices, whatever the requirements are, they need to be following them so that the shipment is in compliance and it can be admitted into the United States. Similar to the reasons medical devices, when an adulterated charge may occur, is the same for drugs. It is about safety and efficacy of the product to the consumer. If the product poses health risks because it is unsanitary or prepared in such conditions, which indicates the facility is not following good manufacturing practices, adulterated charges occur when the product does not meet the claims, when the good manufacturing is not being followed. Another reason why shipments may be deemed adulterated is when the product does not meet the claims on the labeling, such as the strength in the active ingredient. If it's much less than what's claimed on there, it'd be ineffective, or maybe it's too high and it could pose a safety risk. FDA does take samples at the port, and they do find product that not only do not meet the strengths at time that's claimed on the labeling. There's been times when they've done lab results and the product is not at the strength level it indicates. It'll be marked adulterated. And there have been times we've seen where when FDA's done lab analysis, the active ingredient on that label, because of some step in the manufacturing process, that if they didn't test each batch and something did not go correct in that manufacturing step, it turned that one ingredient to another. And that other ingredient can be very harmful to a consumer, where FDA was receiving reports of people being hospitalized as well as a result of death. So FDA takes these issues seriously and will not allow products into the country under these conditions. So it's very important that the labels are truthful, that they are complete, that the product meets the requirements for marketing if it has to go through approval, or for drugs, if they're following a monograph, that they meet the monographs, and that the product is true to the label per the strength, the ingredients, the intended use, and that they have a directions of use if not exempted from bearing it on the label. They also have to include the place of the manufacturer and all that. That's for the misbranding charge. So it's very important to ensure that all the requirements are met before shipping to the United States. Before a shipment even arrives at the port, the product can be at risk when a firm is on import alert, or a product or a region. When a firm is on import alert, you'll have a high predict score to flag the product for detention without physical examination. What is interesting about import alerts is they do not only apply to companies. It can be based on a product that the FDA is aware has an issue, like impurities, or the inactive ingredient has an impurity attached to it that could cause harm, or based on a country or a region that they are aware of has some issues. Import alerts are public information, and they inform others that when shipping to the United States, there is a high risk that the shipment may not proceed. In contrast, a detention is specific to a shipment. It is not company specific or product specific. A detention is holding that specific shipment at the border because it appears to be in violation of the United States law. Note that when a shipment is on hold, it is not always automatically detained. A shipment status can be pending under review, as Cindy explained. This does not mean it's detained, as explained earlier. Once that notice of action is issued with charges, then the shipment is detained and a response with corrective action or a plan to help release the shipment may be submitted. Otherwise, if the violations cannot be resolved, then the shipment will be denied entry and either needs to be reshipped outside the United States or destroyed. FDA puts out import alerts due to evidence they have regarding a company, a product, or a region producing products that could pose risk to the consumers. For companies, they are commonly put under import alert due to issues found during an inspection that were not resolved. A warning letter that goes unresolved can put a firm on import alert. The most avoidable action a firm can take to avoid the import alert is to never ignore the FDA when they reach out. When the FDA contacts you due to an issue that may result in a recall, if you deny an inspection request or don't answer at all, or other communication requests, FDA puts firms on an import alert. And it's not always easy or quick process to be removed. Petitions have to be filed, and they require documentation and time for FDA to review. There are 3 levels of import alerts. The red list, where shipments under this level will be stopped for detention without physical examination, which means FDA can detain it without actually looking at the shipment or doing lab samples. The issue under this import alert would need to be resolved, and in some cases it is not possible to do for that shipment and will be refused entry. The yellow list are firms, products, or countries who have taken corrective actions but are still under surveillance due to the severity of the good manufacturing practice issues of the past. These shipments may be stopped for inspection before being allowed entry into the country, but they're less likely compared to some that are compared to the red list. The green list is the one that the firms want to be listed under, where they are considered low risk and demonstrating compliance and will not be detained unless there is an examination performed that indicates there have been a violation of United States law. If your firm is under an import alert, there are steps you can take. First, you need to understand which import alert your firm is listed. Once you have determined the import alert, then you can review the guidance in FDA's Regulatory Procedure Manual, reviewing Chapter 9 on import operations and actions to determine what is needed to be removed for that specific violation. When you submit a request to FDA, step 2, which can be either emailed or mailed directly to the FDA's Division of Import Operations, you should include in your petition a cover letter, a letter of authorization for who you authorize to speak on your firm's behalf, and supporting evidence. Once your petition is sent to FDA, an acknowledgement will be sent out to you, including a case number and an FDA contact person. Note that these filings are processed in the order that they are received. As some cases are going to be more complex compared to others, the time frame for a response is not only dependent on the volume at FDA. FDA will review as step 3, and if the criteria has been met for the violation, the letter will indicate that they issue out that the firm is removed from the DWPE. However, if not all conditions for removal have been met, the letter will state the reasons why the request was denied, and the firm will still stay on the red or yellow list. You would have to submit another petition with additional supporting documents to try again to be removed. This is not an easy or quick process. Therefore, it is important to take the requirements set forth by FDA seriously to prevent within your capacity by all means to not be on import alert in the first place. These are public records and it can have impact on your business as it will be known shipments by your firm are at high risk for not being granted entry. We have gone over a lot of material today, and if you have been in the business of FDA regulated products, you may have experienced these issues we have discussed today, or you are new to this and want to prevent these issues. Either way, Registrar Corp is here to support you and help you where possible to keep your shipments moving through port. For medical device services, we offer an array of services that ensure your products are compliant, starting with ensuring labeling meets FDA requirements and filings such as registration, listings, good ID, and EMDR submissions. We act as a point of contact for companies, as an official correspondent for all firms, and United States agent for non-US firms. We have an amazing portal that helps communicate changes or confirm that there are no changes when it comes time to renew your submissions with FDA. It is known as Registrar Hub, and it also encompasses our other amazing software, Comply Hub, that will alert you if your firm is named on an import alert or simply have a centralized place to review your company's history. We have also recently added assistance for Health Canada for Class 1 devices and medical device established license. So if you are shipping to the United States and Canada or to Canada, contact us. We will be happy to assist you. We have a lot of solutions for the drug industry. We assist clients with critical processes such as obtaining DUNS numbers, labeler code requests, and establishment registrations, which are essential for compliance. Our expertise covers drug listings across various categories, including active pharmaceutical ingredients, over-the-counter monographs, generics, prescription, and veterinary animal products. Additional support includes self-identification submissions for generic drug manufacturers and payment facilitation under the Over-the-Counter Monograph User Fee Amendments Act and the Generic Drug User Fee Amendments. We have also provided FDA export certification for human drugs, and we manage amount reporting for annual manufactured amounts of listed drug products as required under the Coronavirus Aid Recovery CARES Act. We have a master file services that cover multiple global regulatory bodies like the United States FDA, Health Canada, China, Therapeutic under the Australia's agency, EMA, that assists with, we do so much, especially with the United States FDA. We also do medical device master files, biologics, and other regulatory products. Register Corp has you covered with its 18 offices worldwide, supporting in 13 languages. We take pride in what we do and love serving the industry in compliance with the agencies. We have a few moments to answer your questions. Please use the questions chat to submit your questions, and we will do our best to answer your questions. If we are unable to accommodate your questions in today's time, please do not hesitate to contact us, or if you think of questions after this webinar. I will display our information momentarily so you know how to contact us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I didn't see any Melissa questions in the chat, but or there's actually one. Does
So Cindy,
Registrar help? Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you're okay. I see one question. Cindy, I think this one's perfect for you. Does Registrar help with Class 2 medical devices into Canada?
At this time, Registrar Corp does not assist with Class 2 or with the MDL. We only assist for Class 1 devices. Hopefully, in the future, we get to cover that service as well.
Here's another one for you, Cindy. Awesome, thank you for the answer. When we don't have the US importer for medical device, do you provide US importer registration service too?
Yeah, so we do assist with registering the U.S. importer, but I want to make sure I understand that correctly. But keep in mind, Register Corp does not act as an importer. But if you have a company that will be performing U.S. importer activity, yes, we do assist with doing the registration.
Next question. This actually covers both our industries. Do you provide label
Mhm.
compliance service?
Oh
So
yes.
go ahead.
Mhm.
It's
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah. Go ahead. Yes, for medical device. We do have a amazing label review team that can assist you.
So with our label
as
review
well as with drugs, of
services,
course.
yeah, with drugs, I mean, they help with medical device, drugs, food, dietary supplements. And what is so amazing about our label review service is that with products, I mean, they can help generate the product labeling. If you have a current label, they'll review it and kind of tell you,
Mhm.
what's missing, what needs to be added, help you revise it. And we also have services that if you're not even sure what your product could be classified as, we have a product review service that kind of helps those gray area devices, our products in general, to kind of determine, well, what path can I take to be able to market my product? Sometimes reformulations need to occur to get them into compliance. So, I mean, our label review team is so amazing. I can't even talk them up enough. They've been doing this for so many years and have had such
Mhm.
great success. They really do make sure that, when you use that service, you can leave there confident knowing you're not going to have any issues related to the labeling. It's a great question.
Agree. So if you have any specific question, please feel free to reach out to us on the email address or phone number indicated in the screen. We'll be happy to assist you.
Oh, we got one more question. Is this one that you can assist with, Cindy? Does Registrar help with the IFU creation?
That's a great question. I believe we do not currently assist with IFU creation. Yeah, just basically a process of development, like for instruction for use document for medical device. But I will actually get back with you on that just to make sure. If you could email us to the email address, or if, I'll be happy to look further on that and then provide you more accurate answer. Um, it's about instruction for use document for medical device, but yeah. Feel free to send us an email, info@registrarcorp.com, and we'll be happy to provide you further information about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, looks like we've answered everyone's questions. Once again, thank you so much for all joining us today. As always, if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to be here and serve you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you
Have a
so
great,
much. Thank
fantastic
you
rest
for
of your day.
joining. Thank you.